This is the E-commerce Edge podcast with your host, Jason Greenwood. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the podcast. We've got another banger of an episode lined up for you today. I'd love to welcome Harel from EasyTeam to the podcast. Welcome, Harel.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's awesome to have you along for the ride today. When we're talking about off air that you're based in Tel Aviv and in Israel, and I was talking about the fact that I think you might even be getting up into the 13th, 14th, maybe 15th Israeli-founded company that I've had on the podcast because of this huge and rapidly growing commerce ecosystem in Israel. It's nuts. Like it for a relatively small population to be this heavily embedded in the tech world, tech ecosystem, e-commerce, omni-channel, retail tech, high tech, DevSecOps. There's so much technology that comes out of Israel that I think a lot of people out there, a lot of merchants don't realize. We've got Yotpo, there are so many well-known components in our ecosystem that originate in Israel despite a pretty small population, but it seems like the tech ecosystem is stronger than ever. Yeah,
it is. Every day I wake up, I keep on being surprised. I'm being surprised on many companies we have here in Israel that actually do that. We actually, EasyTeam parts with several other platforms here, and we manage some sort of, it was a small community of e-commerce, specifically for Shopify. Started like 3 years ago, and it became so big when we actually flew to Toronto to the last event of Shopify editions. Then we managed to meet a lot of people from this tiny community that we never even knew that they were there, and it keeps on growing, and yeah, it's a great thing to see.
And it seems like a very supportive ecosystem. In some other maybe parts of the world, it feels more competitive than complementary or more competitive than collaborative. But it seems like the e-commerce omni-channel community within Israel is pretty tight-knit, and it seems like everybody is willing to help each other as best as possible, sharing knowledge, sharing capability, sharing tech. It feels like there is definitely the mindset of collaboration over competition. Not to say that you're not competitive. Of course, every business has to be competitive in the market, and they've got to carve out their own niche, but it definitely feels like collaboration is a very big part of the tech ecosystem in Israel.
Yeah, for sure. I think and not only within Israel, we enjoy helping a lot of people getting inside the industry from all over the world. I met a lot of friends in Toronto 2 weeks ago, developing also from point of sale, different platforms, mostly on Shopify, I believe. So yeah, always happy to meet new people in the industry and help them in any way we can. It's tough to starting a new business. It's even tougher to make it grow well. So yeah.
It takes a village is really what this means, and no man, woman, company is an island, and the reality is we need the help of our friends. And the reality is this world is increasingly complex. It's increasingly fraught with challenges. The competitive landscape is tougher than ever. Brands are increasingly cautious about the money they spend on tools, technology, platforms, people, process. When we think about what's happening, the global economy overheated, we dumped a whole lot of money into the ecosystem, and so the reality is that now we've got inflation through the roof. Central banks around the world are retracting, trying to constrict the money supply, trying to increase interest rates, and trying to put the brakes on the global economy. And to a degree it's working, and unfortunately the side effect of that is that brands and businesses are having to be more cautious with every single dollar they spend, which means that the competition increases. And so we've got to fight for every dollar we make as businesses serving this community.
Definitely. Also, you need to understand that probably when you start a new business, especially right now, we're in 2024, mid-2024, you always want to segment, try to be at least in the must-to-have tools as part of the ecosystem, whether it's e-commerce or whatever industry you are, to the nice-to-have field. Fortunately, we don't see people go away despite the AI things right now. Retail is stronger than ever. The technology right now really helps the effort and changes the things that you can actually accomplish by implementing retail as part of your brand strategy and expand. And when you have retail, you have staff. And when you have staff, you need team management. And this is what we are. So we are happily trying to position ourselves as the must-to-have tools out there, which is give you a bit more comfort being there.
Yeah, it definitely gives you a bit of cushion. And this is a question I always like to ask, what dragged you into this business of retail, e-commerce, tech, digital? It feels like everybody has their own pathway to how they got sucked into this beautiful industry that we like to say is, it's interesting because I've never thought of e-commerce, digital, omni-channel. I've never thought of us as IT. The world outside of IT and digital kind of lumps us all together, and they think, oh, that's IT, that's all geeks, that's all people just doing their techie thing. And look, I mind being lumped into IT, but I think that digital, e-com, omni-channel, retail tech, this is a very unique subset of the world of IT. And certainly when I talk to my friends who work specifically in the IT space, we speak a very different language than people in IT. So I think of us as almost like the rogue stepchild of IT, and we're at the forefront of trying to drive efficiency and make money for brands and trying to help them expand their channel mix and their routes to market and being able to help them be more efficient in the way that they go to market. And so it feels like most of IT is a cost center within a business, whereas digital and e-com, this is very much focused on being a profit center and revenue driver of businesses. So I think that's one of the big distinctions between us and like traditional IT. And so the routes that we typically find ourselves getting into our space are very different than typically the traditional IT routes of getting into this industry, right?
Yeah, it depends. I think if you actually want to succeed in the market right now, you have to implement a lot of IT and you have to be techie if you want to be in the edge, right? The main difference, I think, one of the differences is at least that when you go to the traditional IT, let's say cybersecurity, which we have a lot of in Israel and stuff like that, then it's mostly code, right? In the e-commerce, in the retail, you have a lot of human factor here. So it's combination, and as we grow and as there are more and more generation here, then you have to establish the IT to fit them as well. So you cannot automate everything when you have the human factor. This is where we try to get in. And I'm sure we'll talk about it soon. But yeah, a lot of tech, a lot of IT here in e-commerce, a lot of IT in the retail. We see it everywhere. So yeah, we are definitely IT.
Yeah, for sure. No question about it. When I'm doing consulting to my clients, half the time they might bring me in to talk about e-commerce and omnichannel, but we end up having to go down into the nitty-gritty of ERP, CRM, CDP, PIM, everything that supports everything that's customer-facing. We have to have lots of technology behind the scenes that allows that customer experience. Basically, the simpler the customer experience looks, the more complex the back end often is to make that possible. And so when you guys...
making something simple is so difficult. Everywhere.
It is, and everybody says, hey, we just want our website to act like Apple and be like super simple, super streamlined, no friction, everything else. So it's okay. Do you realize how much work we're going to have to do on the back end to make this possible? I hope you're ready. Strap yourself in, because this is going to be quite the ride. And when you decided to set up EasyTeam, was this primarily to scratch an itch? Did you see either in your own life, in your own business world, that you said, hey, there's really nothing here that does what we are setting out to do? Did you recognize a gap and say, and we'll get into the nitty gritty later, but when I look at what in all transparency, I've never used EasyTeam before. I'm not familiar with it, so I'd have to go by what's on the tin on the website. But what you are building is not traditionally bolted into an e-commerce platform or a digital platform. And so it's very interesting. So I'd love to know what even put this idea in your mind that this was even needed in the market.
Okay, that's a great question. We had a lot of roadmap behind me, okay, behind the entire company, actually getting and understanding the gap that actually does exist in the industry. So in my previous company, I used to manage quite a lot of people, around 100 people. I had the opportunity, being young, around 26 years old, while managing a lot of people. And when I examined what should I do next, where should I head after I'm finished there, then one of the colleagues that worked with me there said, hey, I have a Shopify store, by the way, which is a Shopify Plus, not sure you're familiar with it, and it makes quite a lot of money. Do you want to take a look? We scheduled a short meeting in a coffee, and he said, look, one of the main issues that we have is that we have this online website, but it requires a lot of human attention and staff management behind the scenes. And we're using 5 different tools to do that, right? From customer to success, to purchasing, to inventory, to everything, fulfillment. So we think that there is a huge opportunity here to create a solution. So I created the solution. It was one of the bad solutions that you can ever imagine. The UI was, this was my really first time getting into actual tech behind the management scene. And the product was really bad, but it was good enough, if we're talking from the MVP perspective, that it allowed us to understand the actual user need. Because we get a lot of new merchants and they all asked us, are you integrated with the POS? Are you integrated with the Shopify POS specifically? Because back in the days, we were only on Shopify. And I asked myself, what the hell is Shopify POS? We took a look, did a bit of analysis, and once we figured it out, we understand, okay, we have to shift our company and product towards the Shopify POS. And this is where it all started. When we changed our persona to retailer instead of online store, we saw, when we understand finally how big the gap is and how crazy it is that you have to manage and big amount of, even if you have 5 staff members to 15 staff members or 25 or 50 per location. And what happens if you have 50 locations and you have to manage it combined? It's going to be a lot of chaos. I'm not sure this is why you actually wanted to start a company and your brand initially, right? You wanted to create nice clothing. You wanted to create an impact. And you wanted to sell it. You wanted to sell the products. And suddenly you have to do hiring processes. And suddenly you have to work with motivation. And suddenly you have to do a lot of integrations and payroll and accounting. And the list goes on and on. So it's really, we've developed the gap because we understand the gap really well within the retail industry. Because if you're looking right now at different staff management or team management solutions, there are hundreds. Okay, there are hundreds of different platforms, and basically they're pretty much doing all the same thing because you have the core functionalities that you're looking for when you're running a business, physical business, retail business with people. You need to track their time, you need to make the schedules, and you need to perhaps some task management, some chat, and you have to pay them eventually. But we said, listen, we have a lot of data from this point of sale system. How can we combine our internal product with all its data and the point of sale understanding and APIs and data to actually provide analysis and impact and actually help them running their business effortlessly, removing all this hassle and actually helping them generate more sales, okay? Yeah, this was the story behind that. We are far more established right now, but this was
the original vision.
This is the original vision, yeah.
Love it. And you guys do now, you expanded the solution to where you can do time tracking, you can do scheduling, you can do payroll all within the platform. And I'm guessing that, and you'll tell me if I'm wrong here, one of the reasons why it makes so much sense to plug into an e-commerce platform, even for these, what would traditionally be considered back office functions, right? Mm-hmm. These are traditionally considered, this is not traditionally considered an e-com function within the business. Right. However, as you rightly point out, something like Shopify POS collects a tremendous amount of information around staff performance, right? When you put in a transaction into Shopify POS, the sales rep is tracked. The person who actually executes the transaction is tracked. The user in the Shopify world, the user of the POS is being tracked. And so we know, okay, cool, we know they've maybe been on a shift for 8 hours. We now know how many transactions they're putting through the till versus how many there might be 3 people on shift or 4 people on shift for that sales period. And now we need to track, okay, who is putting through more sales, who's pulling up information on behalf of customers, who is collecting more information from customers, i.e. getting obviously as much detail into that platform as we possibly can, knowledge about that customer, putting them into customer segments and groups wherever possible, adding customer attributes wherever possible. Obviously, we're capturing, if we're using Shopify POS, we're capturing their payment details in ShopPay anyway, so that's great. So they can reuse those details online, in-store, without a lot of hassle. It removes a lot of friction. So there's a tremendous amount of information that by default we are capturing about staff performance and staff usage or staff utilization. There's quite a lot of information by default that we're capturing out of the box just by deploying Shopify Online and Shopify Pause. And so it feels like maybe that was a recognition on your part that says, hey, we could go and collect this information independent of these systems, or we could pull in this information and then augment it with additional information. And then we would have a more holistic system that way, with a reduced lift by the merchant to be able to pull all these items of data together and starting to better understand staff performance and productivity and all these things. So it feels like you hit on a topic here that is really important for brands to understand, which is that you've got data siloed right across your whole business. And the last thing you wanted to do was create another silo. You said we'd rather bring information out of these silos, bring them into our platform, and make a holistic dashboard, for lack of a better term, to help understand how we're working with our teams.
Yeah, so it's all about plug and play right now. When you initiate the first integration between our platform and your point of sale, what you get is instant understanding about the productivity and about the performance. So what usually happening within the retail industry is we have commissions. Commissions is one of your set of tools that you actually can use if you want to incentivize your team. And we can talk about incentivization and what's your goal when you try to motivate this stuff, because there is a huge subject about the turnover of the team and how difficult it is to hire people, because turnover and training time takes a lot for you, and obviously a lot of expenses towards that. But when you let's say, for example, you understand that Danny sells $500. When you combine the time tracking data all within the same place, then you understand how much Danny sells per labor hour, which basically means that every time you hire Danny, you get $70. Every time you hire Danny, you get $80 per hour. And if you're paying Danny $20, then you actually make this amount of profit out of the revenue, right? So now that you have this thing across all of your locations, you can understand what's the average of paying per labor hour. You can sort out your top sellers. You can see that based on different locations, who's not performing. We had a lot of merchants that actually started to use us, and they saw that some of their staff actually sold a lot, but when you compare it to by labor hour, they sold way less than the others because they didn't work a lot, that they've been on vacation, stuff like that. It actually hurts the statistics. So when you combine the team management core functionality into all the incredible data that you have as part of your e-commerce platform, and specifically your point of sale platform, you can get a lot of insights that we're trying to do. This is where we are going. This is all of our tools, from the time tracking to the commissions to the scheduling to even the task management, is all crafted towards retail in every single place, which is based on data. Everything is based on data.
Makes sense. And how do you guys think about retail scenarios where, and this is pretty common in the retail world, where they got one or two people that stand at the till all day and just ring people up. And then they've got people on the floor. They're actually roaming around, asking customers questions, helping them identify the right products, standing in the fitting rooms, maybe standing at the counter, helping them find the right piece of jewelry. They don't, the person who's actually doing the selling and the customer assistance and helping to facilitate the conversion isn't necessarily the person that does the ringing up at the till. And so it becomes a really challenging scenario to identify and attribute sales and conversions to a staff member who might be busting their ass to help the customer have a fantastic experience and helping them convert every customer that comes through the door, but that sale isn't necessarily attributable to them directly. And so how do you help brands deal with this dichotomy?
Yeah, first of all, we are pretty strong with the attribution, so you can attribute in many different ways. For example, we're trying to be as fast as possible when it comes to the cashier. If you're not attributing your sale, then it automatically attributes to the one that logged into the cashier and stuff like that. You're just trying to streamline the sales process. Also, specifically when using Shopify, you have the POS Go, which is an incredible product. It's actually a personal product that each one of the staff member can actually do the sales everywhere in the store. The platform itself is probably any team management platform. It has its own back office /admin where you can customize everything, create everything that you want, but we also have sufficient in-store capabilities, which are deeply integrated within the point of sale, that allows to perform all of these actions seamlessly, and they're all talking to each other live. The attribution works seamlessly whether who makes the sale or not.
Sounds great. And it feels like you're edging ever so slowly into point of sale CRM territory almost at the same time, because you're capturing additional information, you're creating an environment whereby people within the store, physical store in particular, are able to start capturing some additional information about the customer. They're starting to learn more about the customer that is going to help them convert. How do you feel, and I know you don't call yourself a CRM, and maybe you don't even have necessarily ambitions to be a full CRM, but how do you think about the CRM market? Because it feels like that's a really, and I see retailers all the time implementing retail CRMs specifically to capture information that is either difficult or impossible to capture natively within Shopify, but it certainly helps the salespeople and enables the salespeople to track additional information and capture information when they're just speaking with the customer, when they're building a dialogue, when they're building a relationship with the customer, and they're talking with the customer, and they're learning about, oh, hey, I've got my kids graduating in 4 months' time, and I'm starting to think about what I'm going to get them for a graduation gift, or they're going to the prom, and so maybe I need to buy them a dress, or there's a million different conversations that retailers are having with their customers every single day that help to enrich that customer account, or could help enrich that customer account. How do you guys think about that type of stuff? Hey team, I have a big favor to ask you. Please pause this episode and send the link of this episode to someone you know that you think would enjoy this content. Really appreciate you spreading the word. This is how we grow. We're not a Joe Rogan. We don't have big, massive advertising budgets, but we absolutely want to grow. We want to get the learnings from all of these episodes out to as wide of an audience as possible, and we need your help to do it. Thank you, and now back to your listening.
We're not trying to be a CRM. We think Shopify is doing an incredible job there, and we're trying to be really niche in from this perspective. With that being said, eventually the end goal and the end result is to trying to make your payroll effortless when it comes to retail. And a major part of it, outside of the time tracking, is the commissions. Now, usually when you think about commissions, you think about someone makes a sale and he sold an iPhone, he received $10. He sold a shirt, he received $2, which makes sense. But we try to make it as flexible as we can, because we understood that as part of from the omni-channel perspective, some brands actually look at the retail as not only as their main sales channel, but also a really strong channel for customer acquisition. So why don't we actually create, as part of our commissions engine, also things that will help you incentivize your staff members based on customer acquisition? For example, subscribing to the brand's newsletter, getting their email, and stuff like that. So if it's a sale for a new customer, which never ever purchased from your brand, then you get additional $5, for example. So we try to build this complexity so it won't be only for your having more sales, but also the quality of your sales towards your brand. And we're actually exploring right now, which is quite interesting, because this field goes on and on with the innovations, that we can actually contribute sales that happen online and provide commissions to the staff member that actually acquired this customer physically. Brands are super interested with that. We're trying to innovate in any way we can, and eventually at the end of the day, at the end of the month, people want to do, hey, I want to run payroll, and they want to see the commissions for everyone. They want to see the time tracking, and all they want to do is click on pay.
The great thing about this is, and this feels like very much B2C and D2C taking a page out of the B2B world book, right? The reality is, in the B2B world, you typically have named accounts, and regardless of where they transact with your business, whether it's online, EDI, punch out, sales rep, customer service, wherever the transaction actually gets executed, the credit for that sale goes to the named account manager who's assigned, or the BDR, the BDM, or whoever it is that either acquired that customer or is assigned. That customer is assigned to that account manager, account rep, to look after that customer, to retain that customer, to grow that customer's account from a sales perspective. And it feels this is a very powerful tool in the downtimes if we are now incentivizing these people who stay with our business, not only are we working on retention, because retention in the retail world is so difficult. It is very difficult to retain staff.
Yeah.
So it feels, hey, if we can acquire a customer, we can convert this customer in store who's never shopped with us before. And I know as a sales rep, or I know as a team of sales reps that are working on shift, we're going to collectively get credit for this. And then if they continue to shop online with us after the fact, because we're now able to promote to them because we capture enough information to personalize our promotions to them, then we're going to continue to get credit over and over again. The more transactions that this customer makes with us, and then I'm not going to want to leave, because I know that if I leave this business, I'm going to stop getting those commissions. So from a retention perspective, from an attention perspective, from a conversion perspective, and a customer service perspective, and then also it creates an opportunity in downtimes to where I can now do outreach to my customers that are assigned to me. And I can say, hey, we've got this new stuff in. I haven't seen you in store for a while. We've missed seeing you. We've got this cool stuff in. We thought you might like. I thought I'd just reach out and give you a phone call and say, look, I'm on shift today. I'm on shift tomorrow. If you want to come in, I'd be happy to fit you. I'd be happy to help you. It creates almost like a warm lead engine for retail staff, because the reality is retail staff typically don't reach out to customers. They typically only deal with the customers that walk through the door. But we should be, in the retail space, we should be, and in the online retail space, we should be more proactive. We should be reaching out to customers. We should be treating customers like accounts instead of just an individual sale opportunity. And this is where I think technology like yours can really help that process.
This is the gap. Okay, this is the gap here when you're building a staff management and payroll solution for retail. These are the things that you actually want to address. The brand, one of their significant expenses in the retail is the salaries and the training time. The turnover is incredibly high. If you actually do incentivize your team and you think about your staff as you think about your customer from a retention perspective and growth, these are the tools and capabilities that we are bringing to the table here.
And this feels like quite a game-changing approach or attitude, because at the end of the day, I think that in many cases, it's not that retailers don't want to incentivize their staff and they don't want to retain their staff. It's that they don't necessarily even know where to start to be able to do that. And it's difficult, right? Without interconnected systems that can make this possible. Even if they have an idea in their mind, hey, I'd love to incentivize our staff. I'd love to do commissions. I'd love to do split commissions where a joint sale has taken place and someone at the counter has helped them. Someone on the floor has helped them. Oftentimes it just feels like they put this in the too hard basket, because from a technology perspective, it feels quite overwhelming, right? They may have, the intention might be there, but being able to execute on the intention is a totally different story.
This is where the tech comes in. Remember the initiation of the conversation. This is where we got in. We do innovate here, and we do try to build a niche product, but a good product for them, because I always say to the team internally, bring them for the time tracking and making them stay for the commissions and payroll. So people, they're coming because they need team management tools. They're looking into everything, but we're trying to talk retail, and we're trying to innovate here. Any way we can, and the sales performance and the commissions, and we didn't even talk about the checklist and everything. Anywhere we can automate and brings all this data together and to make the life of the retailer way easier, not only easier but also more efficient, keeping is their staff members in store for more time, for a longer time, then yeah, this is what we aim for. Important thing to mention is every new release of new functionality, a big one that we actually do, one of our KPIs is the staff turnover. Okay, so if we, for example, when we inserted the new commissions engine, that we see that the staff, the brands that actually create these commission plans based on whatever plan that you want, makes actually staff stay there. They get paid more, and the brand earns more. It's a win situation for everyone, for the customers, for the staff member, and from the brand. So yeah, a lot of room here to innovate. We keep on learning every single day from it, and yeah.
And I think it's worth pointing out that the benefit of being an app within the Shopify, Wix, or whatever ecosystems you decide to ultimately integrate with platform, what that means is they don't need to operate in multiple systems. They operate in the app admin, directly in the back end of Shopify admin and Shopify POS admin, and things like, for example, the integrated time clock. When people come in and clock in, so to speak, they could use their standard Shopify point of sale time clock to check in or clock in, and automatically when they log in, this can kick off the time clock that they're actually checked in and on duty. Then again, when you need to do employee scheduling, when you need to be able to handle this across multiple locations and visibility centrally across this. Also with individual staff permissions, it means that the store manager, for example, is able to see their staff but not able to see all store staff. So you have this native permission hierarchy that can tail off of the back end of the native permission set that's within Shopify point of sale. And then when we think of sales performance, because we're automatically tracking that, that's automatically embedded within the platform, you can see those productivity things. But I guess in commissions and task lists and checklists to make sure that the staff are doing what they need to do when they're on shift, it's okay. It's not just your job to sell. It's your job to do put away. It's just a receipt product. It's to scan it in. It's to do all these different things. Or maybe even to manage click and collect or manage ship from store. Or there's certain task lists that they need to do throughout the day that is over and above the traditional, okay, I'm on the floor and I'm serving customers. Or maybe you can even set a task list of outbound outreach for existing customers that you haven't seen in a while. Reactivation campaign that is driven by in-store staff. But the beauty of all of this is that this is managed all within that one UI, that one ecosystem, to where they don't have to have 5 different tabs open in a browser window on their point of sale system. They can all manage it centrally. And I think that's from an efficiency perspective, that feels really important.
That was one of the hardest decisions that we had to make, because eventually we had, initially at least, we had the first 3 or 4 versions of EasyTeam as it rolled out. We had our own branding, right? And we had our own platform, but it didn't make sense because we wanted to make people stay in the platform. So whatever point of sale platform or e-commerce platform that we actually integrated, we decided to use the exact user experience. And one of the reasons, which is probably the winning reason for it, is the turnover. Because every time you train a new staff member, you have to teach them about, for example, Shopify and Shopify POS. It takes a lot of time and effort. We don't want them to also learn about a whole new platform with a different user experience and different branding and everything. We want to keep all of the processes seamless to make the cashier and the salespeople more efficient. So yeah, we had to give up our own branding from the UI perspective, but eventually it helps us deliver better product this way. So this was one of our decisions.
The beauty of that is, at least in the Shopify ecosystem, it makes it feel like native Shopify functionality. It's so deeply embedded, it feels like native Shopify functionality. It feels like it's not even a Shopify. It feels like it's not an app. It's native, right? And that's the beauty of the Shopify app ecosystem and the app framework, is you can build apps that feel very native to Shopify. So that's amazing. And when we look out, if we were to look out 12, 18 months from now, and what is on your roadmap that either customers are asking for today that you don't do, or that you look out into the market and you say, hey, here's 2 or 3 gaps I see in the market that we would like to plug within the next 12 to 18 months. What's high on your priority list?
So the first one is going to be payroll. We want to make the best payroll a retailer can have. No matter if it's in multiple states, multiple countries, even multiple currencies, whatever, we want them the ability to sit in front of the computer on a very big screen, see all of their different locations, see exactly who works on each one of the locations, what's the top sellers, click on payroll and pay them and make their staff actually stay with them. Payroll is a major thing that we're actually going to conquer, and we're actually trying to do it in 2024. We actually ran out with initial customers right now. Yeah, it's super exciting. And we're also bringing compliance to the table, not only from the payroll perspective. Compliance is some of the core functionalities. Compliance costs a lot for businesses, and we're trying to provide it out of the box without paying a lot. We're trying to be as efficient for them as possible because we have brands with 1 to 2 locations to brands with 60, 70 locations. They all having the core functionalities applied, but as you go bigger and bigger, you have to comply with more and more things, and the complexity gets way more difficult. So we're trying to provide the top quality of solutions that we can from the compliance and payroll perspective, even if you have 1 to 2 locations. Yeah.
Amazing. And from a payroll perspective, I assume that means that you're going to also need to be able to be integrated with banks and being able to trigger off payroll payments and the whole, be able to manage that completely end to end within your platform without having to effectively export that and then import that into a bank system to trigger off the payments and all that sort of stuff, that it should be seamless to where I don't have to manually go in and trigger these payments within my banking, like online banking platform.
At the end of the day, everything is going to be seamless. You just click on payroll, you select the day in trade, you select the staff members, you see the time tracking, you see the overtime, you see the breaks, you see the commissions, you see the sales performance, you see the tips, you see the gross, you see the taxes, you click on pay and everything gets done. Yeah, it's going to be really great for retailers. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. And how do you guys make your money? Because you're a SaaS platform, you're a SaaS app. How do you guys make your money? How do you price? Is it by module? Is it by function? Is it by location? Is it by user? Is it by team member tracked? Or is it a combination of all of the above? Because sometimes these pricing models can get complex really fast where there's multiple facets of usage included within the platform.
Yeah, initially we had a lot of small businesses to take care of. These were our primary criteria here when it comes to the user profile. But we're going up market here and we want to provide the best solution software for brands with 100 locations across the world. So eventually we decided to do some sort of approach where it's not based on the location because it's going to be as you grow. So we're charging based on the amount of staff members that are actually used within the system. Very easy pricing, easy going. If you have 3 staff members or 15 staff members or 100 staff members, it should be affordable. It should be the best price that you can have, including all the compliance and the commissions and time tracking and the payroll. Yeah, we're just trying to bring it to every new retailer that is, no matter its size.
Right, so it doesn't matter what functionality within the platform someone is using. If it's only one component or all the components, it's a fixed fee per user or per staff member.
You get everything
right
out of the box. Yeah.
Wow. And what is the average cost, just average here, per staff member that a brand would reasonably expect to be paying?
You mean how we charge the brands?
Yeah.
So it really depends on the sizes, because the more you go, actually we provide, for the plus merchants that have 40 locations, the pricing might be different. But the average is around $3 per staff member, which is a competitive price. And many of our competitors are actually charging, if they're from the per staff structure, they're charging around $4 for the same functionalities that we provide, but we provide more functionalities towards retail as part of the commissions engine, for example, which does not exist anywhere, or the checklist or the payroll. So it's from $3 per staff member. We don't do per location. Yeah, we just saw that the conversion is way better. It's more easier for the merchants, whether they have one location or 40, to add their team, remove the team, turnover. Again, it's crazy there. So we're trying to be as flexible as we can, instead of just upgrading plans, removing plans, and so on.
Right, and that's just a straight per month fee per staff member interacted with, basically, in that given month. That to me sounds like, I don't work in this space, so I don't know what the competitive landscape looks like, but that feels like a bit of a no-brainer. It feels so cheap that to try to do this yourself, for example, inside spreadsheets, exports out of Shopify, import into a spreadsheet or a Google Doc, trying to run macros and all these different things to try to figure this out, trying to export that then to your banking system or whatever it might be, trying to surface this information to the staff member so it's transparent to them. It feels like trying to do all that stuff manually would end up costing you a heck of a lot more than $3 per staff member if you try to do that yourself.
You will be amazed about the amount of major brands that are actually using pen and paper to create a scheduling and time tracking. You will be amazed how many major brands are way behind.
That blows my mind. That really does, because it feels like this not only helps with retention and customer satisfaction and sales growth, but it also massively assists with employee satisfaction and employee transparency, visibility, retention. It feels like this has as much of an impact on efficiency and profitability as it does on employee happiness.
It does. The thing is that when you sell, for example, an e-commerce platform, then you can show the revenue that you have generated based on your platform. What we do is we are also generating revenue, but we're doing that because the turnover gets way lower and the efficiency of your staff members and their performance gets way higher. It is a process that takes a lot of time to understand, a couple of months to see the performance and to actually create the right commission plans that we actually can craft for you because we have all the data. But it really depends on a lot of amount of locations, amount of staff members, the products that you sell. There's a lot of AI involved as well behind the scenes. But yeah, it really depends on how small, how big you are. We're saving money. Definitely, that's for sure.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And speaking of AI, and I'm guessing that all the comms that go to the staff member, because you can send all the comms to them, you can send the reporting, you can send emails when the payroll goes through for them. I'm guessing you automate the team comms as well, so that this doesn't have to be done manually. It's completely transparent to the team member. They can receive the updates and that sort of thing automatically out of the system, right?
So one of the things that we actually do apply with the AI is the scheduling. So when you think about scheduling, it sounds so basic, right? It's just you're working on this day, you're working on this day, and so on. But we know your top performance. We know how much you sell per labor hour. What if we took all the data of what's the busiest hours that you have, putting it into the AI, and then taking your top performers and putting it there? You actually make more money instantly when you're using this AI model. So we're trying to bring all of this data, not only to time tracking or to commissions, we're trying really, literally everywhere we're implementing the data to provide you the best solution for retail. You can actually make way more sales just almost instantly here.
And I guess it makes the person who's responsible for scheduling so much more efficient because half the job's already done for them, right? Instead of just saying, I like Sarah, so I'm going to schedule Sarah more often. I might like Sarah, but she's an average performer from a sales perspective. But Johnny over here, we know he's a superior sales performer. Maybe I don't like you working with him maybe as much because we have a personality conflict, but man, our customers sure seem to love him.
Johnny, I don't want to. I'm putting you on the evening. I'm putting you on the evening shift every single day.
I'm putting you on the top shift. Totally. Okay. Makes complete sense. Hey, listen, this has been a fantastic conversation, Harel. Now we're coming down to the end of our time together, and I really appreciate the conversation we've had. It's been so enlightening, and I've learned so much. But now I get to flip the script. I get to turn the microphone over to you. I get to let you ask me one question, any question you like. It could be personal or professional. So, Harel ISHAY from EasyTeam, what is your question for me today?
Wow, that's a great question to ask you a question. What do you think the main goal when it comes to retail as a sales channel for the small brands and not necessarily the larger brands?
I think the smaller brands are trying to differentiate and compete in a couple of different areas. One is curation of product, because they're never going to compete with the Sheins of the world. They're never going to compete with the Amazons of the world. They're never going to compete with these massive players that are releasing 100 new designs a day or a week. And when we think particularly of fast fashion, etc., it's really, I think it's coming down to, can we curate a range that is really targeted at our ICP? Do we even know what our ICP is? Are we trying to be all things to all people? Because I think that's increasingly impossible as a retailer. You need to pick an ICP, you need to pick a target market, and you need to go after it with everything you've got. You need to be specialized, you need to be niche, because Amazon's going to be the all things to all people. Shein's going to be the all things to all people. It's H&M's going to be all things to all people. It's not going to be your small 5-store, 3-store, 2-store, 1-store retailers. They have to specialize. They have to niche down hard. They have to have a point of differentiation, whether it's quality, whether it's range, whether it's sizing, whether it's whatever it is. They also have to create an element of retail theater. I think what we're seeing is that the retailers that create an element of retail theater and have something to come into the store other than buying things. We look at Culture Kings. We look at some of the best, most successful retailers in the world right now. They provide an in-store experience that in many cases has nothing to do with actually buying stuff. Whether that be in-store DJs, whether that be in-store personalities that do autograph signings, whether that be collaborations with people, whether that be collaborations with influencers. I think the differentiation, curation bit is really important. But then I think the customer experience piece, and this is where I think technology like yours becomes really critical, And I've had a couple of other technologies on the podcast before, technologies like, for example, that help track store layout changes, meaning where is stuff positioned within the store, where are SKUs positioned within the store from a layout perspective, and what does that do to sales? What do our window layouts, when we change our window layouts, what does that do to sales of those SKUs when we change these layouts? I think that brands are becoming more, because traditional retail has been oftentimes really boring, really stale, and really uniform. And just traditional retail, I try to never buy in-store because I find the in-store experience so infuriating, not fun, not enjoyable. I will avoid physical retail like the plague if I can. Just because typically when I go in there, I've got to wait in long lines to check out. I've got people that clearly don't want to be there. I've got to try to track someone down to help me if I've got a question. Whereas online, I can do that in the comfort of my own home. I can do research. They've oftentimes got search, merch, and personalization technology online that helps me find what I need quick and easy, oftentimes free shipping, etc. And I think that physical retail is going through a real crucible moment right now where physical retail is still, for most retailers, or most omni-channel retailers, I would say, that physical retail still makes up between 70 and 80% of their revenue.
Exactly.
But they're finding that online, their AOVs tend to be higher, their CLVs tend to be higher long term, and the cost to operate that channel oftentimes tends to be quite a bit lower. And so they're stuck in this real nasty middle world where physical retail has ultra high cost and complexity structures associated with it, but they don't want to give away 70, 80% of their revenue, so they know they have to continue to operate retail stores.
And that's that's where exactly where the human power comes in, because if you actually can optimize it, understand it, and maintain and actually incentivize based on really good performance, and to actually not only train them, but keep your staff, love your brand, be the greatest salespeople that they can do, and they actually stay with you, then these expenses can get way lower. And the revenue can go way up.
I think the other thing is the move to a concierge type model, where this is something I'm seeing increasingly become the norm in physical retail, where that person is going to effectively be your concierge throughout that physical shopping experience. They're going to be on tap for you. And then, as you say, if they can carry around a point of sale in their hands effectively and say, look, those 5 things that are right there, you don't need to go up and wait. You don't need to go up and wait and check out. If you're paying by card, I can take your payment right here. I can swipe it. I can print out your receipt right here in my handheld terminal, and you can just walk out the door. So that way you don't need to go up there. You don't need to deal with it. You don't need to wait in that queue at the counter. Now, oftentimes, if they want to pay cash or something like that, then they may need to wait at the counter. But the cool thing is that all the loyalty, everything is being built in to those handheld terminal-based experiences, those handheld point-of-sale experiences. And so I think that we're moving towards a world where concierge style of service is going to become the norm for the winning brands, and the brands that continue to reinforce the old legacy model where, hey, you just wander around the store, you find the stuff you want, and then you go up to a central set of tills and you wait in line and everything else. I think those brands are increasingly going to struggle to compete against the brands that implement cutting-edge tech and user experiences.
I definitely agree. And you need strong staff for that. Yeah, you don't want to put your concierge someone that is not trained enough. I definitely agree.
Or someone that doesn't give a shit, frankly.
Yeah.
And is there just to collect a paycheck.
Yeah, that's the last thing that you actually want to do for a brand.
Absolutely. Listen, this has been a fantastic conversation. I will drop a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes, as well as a link to the EasyTeam website. Other than that, how do you like people to get a hold of you and talk all things retail and team management and loyalty and retention and all those things?
Yeah, LinkedIn, the best approach. You can also email me at harel@easyteam.com, and trying to be as responsive as I can.
Listen, this has been a fantastic conversation. I've really enjoyed it and can't wait to speak to you again soon, my friend. Cheers. Are you a B2B or D2C e-commerce merchant? Then head over to greenwoodconsulting.net to learn how we can help you scale your business.